This is Kite Cutter TV with another presentation. We gotta talk about this. Okay guys, San Antonio Police Chief, the city manager, and the city itself is being sued by the state of Texas for helping aid illegal immigrants escape immigration officials. In surveillance video obtained by Fox San Antonio, dozens of undocumented immigrants are seen jumping from the back of an 18-wheeler to private vehicles. The 12 illegal immigrants found inside the 18-wheeler were allowed to be set free without the federal government properly vetting them. The police chief said that he didn't know what happened to the undocumented immigrants after they released. He said, "Once the folks got here to police headquarters, we have no jurisdiction to hold them, to detain them. So they were released to Catholic Charities, and what Catholic Charities did with them, I just don't know." I've been saying for years that the Catholic Church via Catholic Charities is one of the main advocates behind the scene of illegal immigration. They call this movement MAC, M-A-C, which is an acronym for Make America Catholic. Most of the migrants or illegal aliens coming from South and Central America, along with the Mexicans, are predominantly Catholic. This movement is causing a shift in demographics from a formerly Protestant America to a Catholic America. This police chief needs to be arrested, and if you believe in the Bible, follow Jesus and not the Pope. Check this out.
In this surveillance video obtained by Fox San Antonio, we see dozens of undocumented immigrants jumping from the back of an 18-wheeler to private vehicles. That is until the police show up. That was back on December 23rd of 2017. Now, almost 2 years later, the lawsuit by the state of Texas against Chief William McManus, the city manager, and the city of San Antonio for what happened next keeps moving forward. The Attorney General's office alleges that McManus, the city manager, and the city broke state law by not allowing the federal government to take custody of undocumented immigrants, not running their criminal records, and not properly identifying them to aid in future court proceedings.
Homeland Security had the option to take them into custody, and they passed.
But according to this court document filed on October 20th of this year, after hearing hours of body camera video from the scene and text messages, the state claims that Chief McManus called an attorney from an immigration legal activist organization called Raíces and requested his presence at the scene to help the suspected undocumented immigrants related to federal immigration crimes. The state also claims that Mayor Nuremberg spoke with Chief McManus and then assured his political staffers that McManus's explicit instruction is that no one should be remanded to DHS or Department of Homeland Security.
Why they didn't take custody, I don't know.
But according to the accounts officers at the scene gave during the depositions, after the federal agent was directed to the wrong place, he drove to the next place where SAPD sent him. According to commanding officer's own testimony, he arrived only to be further stalled outside the scene by police officers acting at McManus's direction. One command staff member is quoted by the state as saying, "Chief ran off the feds." According to the lawsuit and officers at the scene we have spoken to, prior to the undocumented immigrants being released, no one ran their 12 criminal histories through criminal databases such as the National Crime Information Center to determine whether they had any criminal history or outstanding warrants. Even more concerning are allegations that neither McManus nor SAPD called Texas Child Protective Services to investigate the safety of a 16-year-old minor who was among those found in the trailer. The court documents further allege that no one ever contacted Child Protective Services regarding the minor found in the back of the trailer. The state also alleges in this document that no officer, quote, ascertained who the minor's guardian was. Instead of McManus's request, SAPD ushered the minor, who was in the midst of a smuggling operation in a city where the minor did not live, into another van or hotel to continue traveling alone in a foreign country. Over 18 months ago, we requested body camera video and text from those present at the scene. The city declined or said that they were non-existent. In a statement, the city of San Antonio says the city has and continues to work in cooperation with federal authorities, and despite the AG's claim, no federal law enforcement authorities have complained about the city. The city will seek legal fees as allowed under the statute. Yami Virgen, Fox News at 9.
On October 5th, Border Patrol agents and the Border Patrol Tactical Unit, known as BORTAC, raided a No More Deaths humanitarian aid station for the second time in under 3 months. Cronkite News reporter Delaney White spoke with the No More Deaths volunteer about the most recent encounter.
Just after sunset, Border Patrol agents descended on Bird Camp, a No More Deaths humanitarian aid station in the Arizona desert. This was the second nighttime raid in under 3 months, the first of which occurred on July 31st and the second on October 5th.
Out of sight, out of mind is what we want, and that's what they hate about all humanitarian groups, in particular right now, No More Deaths, because they have outed them on so many violations out there in the field.
According to the No More Deaths website, the initial detention and surveillance of Bird Camp was set up just 24 hours after No More Deaths released emails from a FOIA request revealing the role of BORTAC, the tactical unit recently mobilized against protesters throughout the United States, and the Border Patrol Union's role in a 2017 raid of the same aid station.
They came in, guns blazing. They completely surrounded the place. They had helicopters. They had tanks come in. They had all the BORTAC agents come in first with huge assault rifles, with silencers on them.
According to Thames, humanitarian aid workers were rounded up at gunpoint and zip-tied. Their phones were confiscated in order to prevent them from documenting the situation through photo or video.
Next, they started detaining up to 30 to 40 migrants. Volunteers couldn't see exactly what was going on, but they could hear people being chased. They could hear a lot of destruction happening. And then after that did happen, the camp was completely destroyed.
Border Patrol agents not only detained humanitarian aid workers and migrants, but then proceeded to destroy the camp, Garcia says.
But to go in there and not really search, but to destroy things that help human life, that help medical people treat other people. They destroyed the camp. They had helicopters. They had trucks. That's an outrage. It's an outrage.
When asked for their comment on the situation, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection spokesperson provided the following statement. On Monday afternoon, October 5th, 2020, agents from CBP's Tucson Sector Border Patrol and Air and Marine Operations Tucson Air Branch executed a federal search warrant on a location identified as Bird Camp near Arivaca, Arizona. The site is better known as the No More Deaths Camp. Approximately 19 persons at the location were taken into custody. 12 of those arrested were identified as aliens illegally in the United States. The action was the second such federal search warrant served at the location since July of this year. The earlier warrant resulted in more than 40 arrests.
And I hope that this country is put in the International Criminal Court one day for the deaths that we purposely caused along this border.
Garcia and No More Deaths volunteers view these raids as a violation of international humanitarian law. Delaney White, Cronkite News.
Young people brought to the U.S. by their parents have been living in legal limbo for years now.
But President-elect Joe Biden is promising to reenact DACA, which allows them to remain here legally. NBC2 chief political correspondent Dave Elias is in our newsroom to explain what has been a pretty confusing past 4 years for the DACA program.
Yeah, it certainly has been up and down. President Trump tried to end DACA, but the U.S. Supreme Court stopped that back in June. Since then, his administration has made it more difficult for many young dreamers to work or drive here legally. Joe Biden says that he will change that on day one in office.
There has been a weight lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I don't have to worry if DACA will end.
Dreamer Diana Lopez works in healthcare. She feared President Trump would find a way to end DACA, leaving her with no options.
Basically have to return to my home country that I haven't been there for many years.
President-elect Joe Biden promising to reinstate DACA.
That was a significant win for the immigrant community and for those that support us.
Dreamer Betsera Mayaga's parents brought her here as a baby. She's hoping for more.
To be able to work, go to school, and then hopefully we get a pathway to citizenship.
If that is a pathway that takes 5, 6, 10 years, at least it's something. Right now DACA holders are told that you have to renew your DACA every year.
Reinstating DACA would require renewing every 2 years. It also would allow new recipients to sign up, something President Trump stopped.
Finally, someone is complying with the Supreme Court decision that says the DACA program is constitutional and should be in place.
DACA is now 8 years old. That means some of these dreamers are nearly 30 years old, and they're hoping that Joe Biden can convince the House and Senate to finally give them a pathway to live here legally for good.
And first at 5, among those anxiously watching the presidential election unfold were thousands of young people who could not vote. The so-called dreamers living under DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's the name of an executive order signed by President Obama giving them temporary protection from being deported.
Efforts by the Trump administration to end it were stopped when the Supreme Court stepped in. But still, it was modified, and DACA recipients say it's now more restrictive. Jessie Degollado introduces us to one DACA student at UTSA who was brought here by her parents from their home in Africa when she was only 18 months old.
Her face blurred to protect her undocumented parents is one of the realities of being a DACA recipient.
It's a constant invalidation of your humanity and your status as a person.
The U.S. Supreme Court sided with DACA recipients last year by overturning the Trump administration's attempt at ending the program. Even so, they say it's not the same. But they believe President-elect Joe Biden will restore what was in the original executive order.
As much as I expect him to fortify DACA again, at the end of the day, right now, it's not going to be enough.
Unless, she says, if Congress does its part by adopting a long-awaited pathway to citizenship. Difficult to do with what's now a split majority, contending with the pandemic and other major issues.
It just feels like that Band-Aid on that gunshot wound. I'm bleeding out.
DACA, though beneficial, is only an executive order, she says. It lacks the permanent guarantee they need to get on with their lives.
We're asking to work. We're asking to go to school. We're asking to build families, to build lives.
In the country they were brought to as children. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Facing deportation, lawyers for at least 6 migrant women who alleged abuse by a Georgia doctor say the Trump administration has deported them and is trying to deport several others. This is according to the Associated Press. The women detained at the Irwin County Detention Center in Ocilla accused the gynecologist of performing surgeries without their consent or performing surgeries that were not medically necessary.
Never leave another behind. It's a mantra followed by members of the U.S. military. But undocumented veterans who spoke to KSAT say they are being left behind by a country they served and fought for. 2 veterans who already have been deported and 1 veteran currently on the run from ICE spoke with our Erica Hernandez about their situations and why they feel betrayed.
Former Marines Jose Alanis, Marcelino Ramos, and an Army veteran we are calling Kevin have all served and fought honorably for the United States. 4 years ago, Ramos was deported, and 7 years ago, Alanis was deported.
It's horrible. It's despicable. Veterans being deported.
I was real bitter because, the reason I joined the Marine Corps was to serve my country, and that's, that's my home to me.
Both brought to the U.S. as children and have never called anywhere else home, and currently they are alone in Mexico.
I get depressed. I lost my wife. My kids call me every now and again, but I haven't seen them for, the last 7-10 years.
As for Kevin, who volunteered to join the military after 9/11 and did a tour in Afghanistan, he is currently on the run from ICE and fears of the day he has to leave his wife and 5 kids behind.
I completely feel betrayed by my government. We volunteered to give our lives.
Come on, hustle up.
It's not fair that we come home and this is how they treat us.
Each of their cases are different, but because each had at one point committed a criminal offense, they were not only sentenced, but also ordered to be deported.
All I'm asking is to just let me be with my family. I already paid for what I did.
I am not there to provide for my family, but I have to keep trying.
Now, you can read more about each of their stories right now on KSAT.com, and coming up later, we'll take a look at how one organization is trying to help these veterans return back to the U.S. Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
It's been a whirlwind 8 weeks for Frank de la Cruz as he works to reclaim his life in the U.S. by getting back his right to drive.
My appointment is not until December the 21st. I'm going to go ahead and take a driver's test and hopefully get my license.
And more importantly, his right to vote.
I was just so happy and excited to be able to have that right for the first time in my life. I voted.
But he often looks back across the border to his fellow vets who are still stuck there.
I feel like I need to help them as much as I can, which I will.
Veterans like Michael Evans, a former Marine who in 2009 was just 2 weeks away from becoming a citizen when he was indicted on drug charges, put on a bus to Mexico, and has been stuck there now for 11 years.
When you first get deported, you feel like it's a death. It is a life sentence, but you feel like it's a death sentence.
But for deported veteran support groups in Mexico, life goes on, and so does their work helping others.
We do stuff for the community, like we gather donations, pass donations out. That's, we just do different stuff for not just veterans.
These deported veterans are largely non-violent offenders who served with honor, and De La Cruz wants them to get the same opportunity that he did.
We got to keep on pushing to bring them back. Yeah, we made mistakes, but we were not tolerated due to the fact that we're not citizens. We're a family, and we're a brotherhood of veterans, of deported veterans.
Michael Gordon, ABC 7.
Representative Veronica Escobar responded to De La Cruz's case, saying in part, quote, "We cannot say our nation supports and advocates for our veterans if we don't protect them all." As we celebrate Mr. De La Cruz's first Veterans Day back home with his family in over 20 years, I'm committed to fighting for veterans in similar situations so they're allowed to come back home to the country they bravely served.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, God bless. Peace.